FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
Welcome. You are listening to the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz, and it is August 22nd, 2017, post-eclipse day, and we've been encountering a bit of a racial eclipse here in the U.S. Well, Charlottesville, you all know about it. David Horowitz is here to discuss now, and as always, questions, comments, email me at kl@kerrylutz.com. David, good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, so we saw this whole Charlottesville thing blow up, and I'm smelling setup here. I don't believe it's real. I think it was contrived and created by the media and perhaps some other nefarious deal forces. What is your take on the whole thing?
Well, it's just a big fake news event. The left needs an enemy, and so they concoct one. I mean, look, these idiots from the alt-right who went there, they applied for a permit. First of all, it was a national demonstration, only 500 of them, and there were, 20,000 or 10,000 counter-protesters. So this is a piddling, marginal group in society, and they obviously are brainless. Yeah. You can't march alongside neo-Nazis and not considered, supporters of them. Yeah. But they applied for a permit. Now, if they intended violence, you think they would apply for a permit and put their names and addresses and whatever you have to put down? So they came for an obvious reason to defend a statue that the left wanted torn down. The left showed up in force, and the left is violent. And a fight, not that the neo-Nazis didn't come with, clubs expecting violence. But it takes 2 to tango. And, there's no heroes out there. Then you have millions of people virtue signaling. Oh, yeah, we're against the Nazis. Yeah. Wake up, people. We defeated the Nazis 70 years ago. There's no Nazi in Congress. There's no Nazi in the in the Senate. There's no Nazi elected official. You couldn't name, 2 neo-Nazis if you had to, whose names weren't. Maybe you could name David Duke, who nobody follows. Yeah. And you might, if you're really erudite, know the name Richard Spencer. These are nobodies, and they're made important by the media and by the left. The left needs them to justify its violence. The Boston demonstration was even more ridiculous. There were about 12 people huddled in a pagoda with 40,000 people screaming hate at them. They had to be escorted out by the cops. And I saw one picture of that group, and they were holding up 6 signs, all of which said, "Black lives do matter." This is, surreal. What's going on? I was watching. I will never do this again. Lawrence O'Donnell on MSNBC last night.
Hopefully not on a full stomach, speech. Right? Not on a full stomach.
And he referred to Breitbart as daily spewing hate. Now, I read Breitbart daily. Yeah. And there's a lot of articles. I haven't seen in the last 6 months of when I started watching it, any hate. Yeah. So, it's just the lying, that goes on the left is so monstrous. I love that Trump has taken on fake news. But, it's worse than fake. He's right. The MSNBC is an enemy of the American people. You can't get any news from them. Well, that's actual news.
That's for sure. Well, David, we got the media that's the enemy of the people, and we have our U.S. Congress and much of the U.S. government that are the enemies of the people. Where are the people supposed to get solace, reclaim their rights, and make this country work again?
Well, I think, first of all, we have to call things by their right name. Left-wing fascists have to be attacked as such, denounced as such. Black Lives Matter is a racist, fascist organization. Its icon is a communist named Assata Shakur, who murdered a police officer, executed him while he was on the ground. Antifa is a fascist movement. These are the brown shirts. I mean, Hitler was a left-wing movement. They were socialists for crying out tears.
Yeah, gun control and all that, right? So,
yeah.
So call the spade a spade, as it were. But we're like drowning here. The country is drowning because at least I don't think most of the country is buying the propaganda about this, that we're a racist nation and that somehow the neo-Nazis are about to take over again. But it's becoming a rallying cry, if you will, to really enslave the rest of humanity.
Yep, that's exactly right. I mean, what's needed is for conservatives, patriots, to get engaged in the battle. There's a lot more of us. And, Trump showed that when you take them on, you can get the support that wins.
Yeah.
That's usually important.
Yeah.
Conservatives are way too polite.
Well, conservatives have lives. Right? We have lives as conservatives, speaking collectively. I'm kind of a libertarian, but we have lives. We have things that are important to us. We don't live for politics and for demonstrations for the next one, right? So we're at a real disadvantage here, aren't we?
Well, we're at a disadvantage, but the biggest disadvantage that I see, I mean, people, you can complain about all sorts of things, a horrific media to begin with. A Democratic Party whose leaders lie with straight faces all the time. But the biggest handicap that conservatives have is that they don't like politics. And then when they get engaged in, because it's dirty, which it is, and when they get engaged in politics, they're way too polite.
Yeah.
I think what Trump showed, I mean, let's put it another, I'll give an example. I wrote this book called Big Agenda, Trump's Plan to Save America. And in it, I recall this moment in the debates where Trump looked Hillary Clinton in the eye and said, in front of 50 million people, and said, "You are a liar and a crook," which he is both.
Yeah.
But you couldn't name me another Republican elected official who would ever say that to Hillary because she's a woman.
Yeah.
They're all bound by political correctness.
They would never say it to any Democrat. They never say it. They never said it to
Trump has shown that you can change the dynamics of everything by speaking up.
Yeah. I mean, when did you ever hear a Republican say to any Democrat or anyone, "You're a liar and a thief"? But yet the Democrats do it all the time. What about this state senator?
Exactly.
What about the state senator in Missouri who basically said that Trump should be assassinated? That actually got the Democratic Party to denounce her, although I think with crocodile tears. But she's going to be gone at some point. I don't see how they can allow her to stay around. Do you?
Well, you never know, but I kind of agree with you. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that was just, they pushed it and they pushed it and then they pushed it too far. Jumped the shark.
Yeah.
Yeah. So looking to the future, how do you get people involved who really just want to go about your own business, live your life, raise your kids?
You can't do that anymore. We're in a battle for this country, and people have to get involved. They have to get out there and defend. To defend Trump. They have to defend what's right. We need borders. We need to fight the terrorists. We need to defend the police and not the criminals. These are all battles that people can get involved in.
Hey, that was another thing in Charlottesville. The cops just, I guess, just stepped aside and let the violence start. How did they get away with this?
Well, that's because of the left-wing mayors.
Yeah.
Every city in America of any size is controlled by the left Democrats. That's why there's so much crime there.
And they're failing, right?
That's why these cities are failing, yeah.
Yeah, name me a Democratic city that's prospering and succeeding. I mean, I guess you could say Seattle, perhaps, but even still, there's these problems, homelessness, and just the general moral decay in these cities that is really quite shocking. And it's virtually every major city in the country.
It is. Every killing field is 100% controlled by the Democratic Party.
New Orleans, Detroit, Chicago, you go down the list, one after the other. And what do they have in common? Generally they have bad weather, rust belt, but they have basically had a Democratic mayor for several generations. Detroit, 1962, I think the last Republican mayor fled.
61.
I'm sorry, off by a year.
1961, Detroit was the richest city in America.
Yeah, and it took them.
Now it's one of the poorest.
Yeah, amazing, isn't it?
That's all due to the Democrats.
Yeah, for sure. So it's not just a fight for political survival; it's economic survival, and really, your family's livelihood. I think that's where the Republicans have failed in framing the debate. It's not just a matter of a little bit less First Amendment, a little bit more Second Amendment. Everything will balance out. This is an existential battle that we're going through right now.
Yes.
Yep.
Absolutely. That's what it's about. I wrote about this in the book. I wrote a big agenda for people who are interested. It's really about who the left is, who the Democratic Party is, why Trump is the antidote, why political correctness is really a communist party line that, prevents Republicans from looking Hillary Clinton in the eye and saying you're a liar and a crook. Because she's a woman. She's a protected species. It's also, the left is also driven by racism. The phrase people of color is a racist term. It's not English. We don't say, here's a box of crayons of color, do we? It's completely ideologically made up. And what it does is it divides the world into people of color who are oppressed, allegedly, and white people. Those are the bad guys who oppress them. But if you think about it for a second, Maharajas in India, they're people of color. African despots, they're people of color. Islamic beheaders in Syria, they're people of color. So it's just a term, people of color is a term to say white people are racist, oppressors, supremacists, and all this other garbage. It is pure racism, and it has totally infected the Democratic Party. Yeah,
it is the Democratic Party. David, if you look back, you look back at Obama's family history, they were slave owners. I mean, the Arabs in Africa were the slavers. They were the ones that were selling the slaves.
There were more African slaves in the Muslim slave trade than in the Atlantic slave trade. And slavery existed in Africa for 1,000 years before a white person ever set foot there. And, white people didn't go into Africa and throw nets over free Africans and enslave them. They bought them at, slave docks. And Ghana, I mean, they were enslaved by blacks.
Of course.
And sold. Now, that doesn't justify slavery, but the fact is that every black in America, every single black in America owes his or her freedom to Thomas Jefferson and the whites in America who ended slavery after 3,000 years of everybody accepting it. It's Jefferson and it was English Christians as well, Wilberforce, who said slavery is immoral. Those weren't black people, they were white people. And the 350,000 Union soldiers who died, there were, there's a great film about it, Glory. There were black soldiers, but the majority were white. History is just much more complicated than the left. Of course, the left they're racist. That's what they are.
Yeah, and then it's all a case of projection, right? Just a big case of projection. Well, David, we always appreciate we appreciate your coming on the show.
I appreciate it. I have to go now.
Understand.
But, I have a website at frontpagemagazine.com.
All right, frontpagemag.com. We love it. David, thanks so much for coming on. Keep up the fight.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.